What's up, everyone? Ryan Cramer here from PickFu, and I have a special guest with me, Anthony Cofrancesco, with PickFu. Anthony has been lovely to join us and kind of walk us through a little bit about PickFu and what their organization does and how they're going to help you as e-commerce sellers, and not just e-commerce, but Amazon sellers as well. So, Anthony, why don't you take it away for us?
All right, Ryan, thanks so much for having me on the show today. I'm really excited to be here. Guys, this presentation is going to be pretty straightforward, maybe about 15 minutes long. And it's going to be about a general overview of what is PickFu and how can e-commerce sellers use it in their brand. So, Ryan, if it's cool with you, I'm going to pull up some slides.
Please do.
All righty.
And for everyone listening into, we'll be able to have all the links to anything and everything that Anthony shares and links-wise. And then if you have specific questions, you can obviously email us here at PingPong, or you can email him directly, and we'll make sure all of his contact information gets out to you. So yeah, Anthony, take it away.
Awesome. Can you see the slides right now?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Alrighty. So I'm going to jump right into this, guys. Again, like I said, this is how to validate products, how to validate things you're selling online, specifically for Amazon FBA with PickFu. One thing I will say before we kind of jump in is, we don't really put out too many discount codes. So if you guys are interested, if you haven't used PickFu before, I'd highly recommend using the code either PingPong, or you can go to pickfu.com/pingpong and you'll get 50% off of your first poll. So the PickFu polls, as you're going to find out today, are pretty inexpensive. They start at $50. So you don't have to use the code, but you can get your first one for $25, which is a pretty good deal. The other thing I'll say as well is that this talk is going to cover what I would say are the most straightforward and the most basic applications of PickFu. So I'm going to run through things today like product design, branding, copywriting, and images. Now, we do have a more advanced talk, which from what I understand will probably come back and present for you guys. And so that'll be a separate conversation. That'll be the more advanced applications of using PickFu. So things like A+ content, video, storefront design, and more advanced branding elements. The final thing I'll say before really jumping in is I'm very fortunate. As Ryan said, I'm the industry liaison here at PickFu. And my only job, literally my only job, is to research as much as I can, work with sellers, and help you guys out. So if you have any questions, if you want the slides, if you're setting up your poll and you just want some extra help, please feel free to hit me up, Anthony@pickfu.com. So with that being said, let's jump right in. Kind of what is PickFu? And probably in the most simple way of putting it, PickFu is just instant consumer feedback. So imagine if you're selling a product online, you've got your idea, right? Maybe you're thinking about launching a product. What PickFu is we have a panel of more than 10,000 people, all based in the United States, all native English speakers. And what PickFu allows you to do is to take your idea, you can show it to this panel of 10,000 people and get real and instant feedback. And when I'm talking with sellers, what I'll consistently like to ask them is, kind of, where are you currently going for your feedback? And the biggest one I hear is people saying they're going to go and ask their family, right? They're going to go ask their partner or their spouse, hey, what do you think about my product design? Another really big one, as I'm sure many people have done, I know selling products myself, is you go with your gut, right? Your kind of your own self-intuition. And the third one is kind of going with friends or maybe a random stranger. There's the person there in Starbucks, you tap them on the shoulder and you're like, hey buddy, what do you think about my product packaging? And the thing is,
the cheap way to make a really bad business decision, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like there's nothing wrong with any of these methods, right? Going with your family, going with your gut, going with kind of asking random friends or strangers. The thing is, the information just might not be right. And as you can imagine, when you're putting all of this time and effort and money into launching these products, you probably want to take a more scientific, a more data-backed approach than to kind of just going with any of these three methods. And when you kind of benchmark and see, okay, well, what are national players, international players in the game? What are they doing? And it's actually quite well known that a big brand like Nike or Under Armour, when they're launching a product, they're going to spend anywhere from $45,000 to $75,000 per product just on consumer feedback. And it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, they have these huge overhead. They're putting a lot of risk, a lot of capital, and a lot of money into launching these products. They really want to make sure that when they actually put a product into market, it might not perform as well as they had thought, but it's certainly never going to be a complete flop where just no one buys it. They can't discount the price and sell it. And so the good news is with PickFu, what our initial goal is just to democratize the ability to go and get customer feedback to go and get customer research. And so, like I was saying earlier, the price point, you don't need to go and spend 45 grand on customer research. With PickFu, it starts at about $50 a test. We're going to walk through kind of what we see as the most common tests. These are going through our wide cross section of our customers. But generally, what we're seeing is that customers on average are doing about 4 to 7 tests per product across these kind of different tests, which we're going to walk through today. PickFu is also interesting if you think about it. I mean, we call it a split test, but it's really not a true split test, and actually has some advantages over what you would consider to be a normal A/B test. Number one is that you can target the audience. So that panel that I was talking about earlier, those 10,000 people, you can actually break that down and select into much more specific categories. So you can target things like gender, age range, ethnicity, income, also other characteristics like which streaming services are they subscribed to? Are they an Amazon Prime customer? Are they actually paying for that subscription? And a whole bunch of different hobbies and interests. The real advantage as well, another real big differentiator, is that PickFu it's crazy fast. It's really, really fast. So a normal A/B test, a normal split test, not only are you going to have to already have enough traffic, to get meaningful results. So if you're just launching, you might not even be able to do that. But a normal A/B test is going to take 2, 4, 6 weeks to actually get enough data to get some meaningful results. A PickFu test, because we have this captive audience, you're going to be able to get a result typically in usually about 30 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
The last thing as well, which is really unique about PickFu, is that people aren't just voting and saying, hey, I like option A, I like option B. They're actually required to give you a detailed response as to why they chose the specific option. One thing that I do want to mention as well, because we get this question a lot, is that PickFu is 100% private. So everyone on that panel is bound by a really strict confidentiality agreement. Everyone signs NDAs. Any of the examples that are shown in this presentation today are either ones that were set up by our internal team, or we have specific permission to show those. So I know as an e-commerce seller, product ideas are like gold, and obviously you don't want people to know about those before they're public. So you don't have to worry about that with PickFu. This is kind of
no customer stealing information, right?
Right, exactly. And so this is a little bit of what the UI of PickFu looks like. A lot of people are running one versus the other, kind of this A versus B. You can actually test up to 8 options simultaneously. Now, this is what I really think is the magic of PickFu, is that, PickFu is more than just votes. It's useful and it's detailed feedback. So again, when I'm running a test, I don't necessarily care that option B here got 56% of the votes. I care much more about what's the reason why. And in fact, this is, again, what makes it different from a normal A/B test. An A/B test might show you which one won, but you don't really know the reasons why it won. And so that's where PickFu really stands out, is because for every single person that responds, they're required to explain why. And this is where you get these really kind of unique, out of the box, these innovative ideas that you might have not really been able to think of by yourself. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of walk through what we find as the most common tests that people are running. And so it can kind of start anywhere along your selling journey, right? Starting off with just initial USP concepting. So when you're just starting to figure out, okay, what are the things that people are actually most interested about with my brand? This allows you to get feedback on essential elements. So whether, what your price point is going to be starting out, what kind of product inclusions, what your product design should be. This might even be before you have creative concepts, before you've done any photography. You're just trying to figure out, is the basis of the idea that I'm trying to take to market, can I get some validation early on?
Right.
Another big one is kind of pre-creative direction. So you're going to spend, and everyone knows this, that you have to spend money and actually get good product photography, good graphic design, good copywriting. But the pre-creative direction it pretty much allows you to get insights from competitors before you actually go in and do that creative work. So to go and say, okay, what are the top few competitors of this product doing? Can I run a PickFu test or a few PickFu tests to figure out what elements are working really well, which ones are not working well, and how can I take that and use that as direction for my creative team, for the agencies that I'm working with? And then furthest down the road is maybe you've had a listing, it's been up, you've been selling it for a bit of time. You can actually kind of do what we would call post-creative audit. So that's, again, you have your photography done, you have your design done, you have your packaging done, and you say, okay, how does my stuff actually stack up against the best people in the space? And what future iterations can I make to it to help it even get better over time. So let's go through some examples here. I'm going to start off with branding. As you can see here, this is for a health supplement line. You've got two options, right? GetUp Labs, Vim Labs. Now, obviously, these are quite similar, but like, how would you even decide if you have a couple different directions? PickFu can help you to kind of make those decisions. Like I said earlier, you don't even really need a logo already. Let's say in this example, this is for a pay-per-use discount club. They're testing between the names Island Cash and Island Dollars with a Z. Again, just trying to get some early ideas on initial concepting. Now, this is a really unique option here, a really unique example, because this is for a line of natural wood furniture. And again, if a creative team were to send me both of these options, I'd say both of these logos look pretty good. But the reason option A got 66% of the votes was in part because they like the thinner font style. They thought it looked more elegant and more premium. But it really came down to this. And they like to see that the natural wood furniture, this was a good representation. You see the tree, you see the wood, versus over here, this was good, but it was a little bit confusing. Is this a bed? Is this a house? I'm not quite sure. In terms of product design, there's really a lot that you can do here. You might have gone and ran your product research tools, and you know that this breakfast in bed tray is a hot seller. But how do you know, should I sell it in this dark wood grain? Should I sell it in this light wood grain? Same thing with this home sweet home sign. And this is actually part of a 4-part test. That's why you're seeing B and C here. But the reason that this was the winner is because, again, very similar designs for this home sweet home decal or home sweet home sticker. But what people really like to see is the American flag inside the heart. You know, again, things that you might not necessarily be able to think of, but become very, very obvious in this kind of sandbox environment. You can also use PickFu to kind of test which product inclusions. A lot of people like to add bonus items, right? And so I actually have this right here. This is this webcam cover. This is a fantastic idea of a product inclusion because it actually helps the product to perform better. You can easily turn on privacy of your webcam versus these resistance bands being added to the leggings. They're somewhat related, but are they really going to help the leggings work even better? Or are you just putting some extra plastic in the box, hoping that's going to help to increase your conversion rate, right? PickFu can help you to make those decisions. Again, going back to a product research standpoint, you might have found that eco-friendly plates are hot, right? And everyone wants to buy them. But which quantity before you go and do your 500 MOQ order? Should I do that in a 25 pack? Should I do it in a 50 pack, 100 or 300, right? Early validation with that, that's something you would really not want to get wrong, right? Because once you do that, you're not going to want to have to, oh, shoot, I actually found that people wanted a 100 pack, but I sold everything and packaged it rather as a 50. You can also test, just different elements. When I'm designing a product, what I like to do is break down the product into as many different components as possible, and then see how I can play around with things like the color or the design or the style. So things like your zipper color or style, the material, the thread color, the strap, the handle type. These are all things that you might think make a very small difference, but overall could actually make a pretty big impact in terms of preference and something that you might not want to get wrong. Now, product packaging is probably one of the bigger examples that we see. And again, something that you really don't want to get wrong, not only because every single time that you're printing your packaging, right, that costs you real money, but switching your packaging can actually be a little bit of work. And most people aren't going to go and pull their existing units from FBA or from their 3PL and completely repackage it to update their design. So you might be somewhere with quite good packaging, but just changing something like the color scheme could have a real big impact. So here on the right-hand side, you've got option B. Again, very similar for this peat mud mask, but this dark really contrasts much better with the bright magenta color, which could be really effective in doing something like even from the page 1 of search results, increasing your CTR or on your PPC campaigns. Again, both of these options look pretty good, but this one really catches your eyes. This is another really good example for this immune support supplement. And what was particularly interesting, again, if I were to cover up options A and B and my creative team had sent me option C, I'd say, this looks fine. It looks really good for product packaging. But the reason that options A and option B were the winners here is because they like the list format versus that this was more of a blocky design. Now, the reason option A was the overall winner is because people said they already knew what an immune support supplement is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to support your immune system. And they didn't really care so much to see, oh, it works at a cellular level, it's healthy respiratory system. They cared much more what was inside, and they were expecting to see things like zinc, to see things like vitamin C. And so this, in the list format, this is confirming for me, even at a subconscious level, oh, I know exactly what's going to be inside of here. So again, small, minute changes to your product packaging that you might not even be able to really think about are very easily rationalized and identified here in something like PickFu. Now, copywriting is another big one. And going back to the product research example, the product research tools are going to tell you most likely what words should be included in your copy. But there's an infinite number of changes that we can make to actually get even more value. So here you'll see an example of testing bullet points. It's not really a surprise to me that option A is winning over option B. These are pulled from a electric desk fan. But this is actually something that a lot of people don't think about, but it's actually a really good tip. And that's using PickFu to optimize your leading words. So a lot of sellers know this, that when shoppers are shopping on Amazon, they're only going to read down typically to your third bullet point. And when they do, they're probably going to skim. So optimizing your leading words the leading words are right here, right? So essentially, if someone's only going to read your leading words, they should be able to get a pretty good idea of what the rest of the bullet point is going to be about. What's the purpose? And so you really have to ask yourself, for this electric desk fan, are the words powerful, wind, and quietness? Is that really the best thing that you could possibly do? And this is a top seller for this product, if not the first within the first 5. And so you're going through these leading words, and you could use PickFu to help identify that. As well with your title, right? The product research tools are going to tell you, hey, these words should probably be in your title, but just changing the order of the words in the title can drastically change the context. Or for example, maybe putting your brand name, if your shoppers are predominantly buying the product on mobile, using those characters up front for your brand name, is that really necessary? PickFu can help you to make these decisions. When I'm working with my copywriting teams, I always like to ask them, hey, make me one version of the description of the product packaging copy of the bullet points. Make me one version that's informative, and make me one that's humorous, right? You can change the different tones or different styles, run those through PickFu, and see which style, which mood of the copy is going to best resonate, is going to best connect with your audience. Images are obviously a big one as well. And so when I first started selling on Amazon about 4 years ago, you could get away with an image like this, right? It's clear, it's crisp. You can see what the product is. But nowadays, right, people have really, really stepped it up. And so giving just some basic context into, okay, now I know that these are bags, but now it's very clear, okay, these are bags that are supposed to hold produce. And now I can get a feel for what kind of size of produce I can fit in it. Or in fact, that these smaller bags actually don't have holes. So I could put something like coffee beans in it and they're not going to fall out. Maybe even using something like this decal, which is a little bit gray area in terms of Amazon TOS, but now I can see I'm getting 10 here versus this. Am I really going to count, how many I'm actually getting? So this is another really good example here, just using something like simple props to show, okay, is this just a random tool I'm going to find in my workshop versus, nope, okay, this is really clear. This is used for peeling off the exterior of an apple. This infographic example is quite good as well. And the reason I like to show this is because, believe it or not, both of these infographics are trying to do the exact same thing. And they're trying to explain a key objection that people are going to have with these wireless Bluetooth headphones. And that's how easy or difficult it is to pair the headphones with your phone. And so again, both of these graphics are trying to show the exact same thing. But the reason that option B is the winner is because it very clearly shows this is a much more minimal design. You can see the phone Bluetooth pairing menu here. You've got some size reference for the hands there next to the actual headphones versus this. Like, what is this right here? What's this background? There's just so much going on. And the really crazy part about this is these are both top sellers for this product, but you're able to see some significant gains. Like if you're trying to come in and sell this product, you could learn a little bit from both of these images to get some overall direction in terms of how you would optimize a similar graphic. I think I explained earlier that you can use PickFu to test up to 8 options at a time. This is a good example of 3. I probably don't think that anyone should probably try to sell a jade roller anymore. They might be a little bit past their but if you were, again, all three of these infographics are trying to do the exact same thing. They're trying to show the before and after of what your face is going to look like after using this jade roller. And so this one is a very minimalist, a very simple design. This one looks kind of creepy. This one's kind of strange. But again, these are all top 3 sellers for this product. And so what could I actually learn? Not just that this is the winner and try to copy this and replicate this, but what elements could I take from this and from this and this? What are the good things? What are the bad things? What am I seeing in feedback that I could actually use to create a better listing and a better set of infographics? So guys, like I said earlier, you can use PickFu at any step along your way in the selling journey. These are kind of the most common tests. What I would encourage people to do is just to really think about what you're doing in terms of building your brands, in terms of building your business. And as things get more and more competitive on Amazon, consumer feedback is probably something you should start taking a bit more seriously. Back in the day, it might have not mattered so much, and you could really just go with your gut or asking your family. But now that's kind of changing, and it's changing quite quick. We recently just released, previously with PickFu, you'd buy all the polls individually, or you'd have to subscribe to one of our monthly plans. But we got a bunch of questions for people that were saying, hey, can you put together a bundled option? So we do have bundles that are now available as low as 3 polls in a bundle, all the way up to 6 polls in a bundle. And those are available through October 31st. So we got about a month. And what I'll say here at the end of the presentation, just to kind of wrap things up, is, look, if you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I'm not quite sure if consumer feedback really has a point for my business, or I'm not really quite sure if I should integrate it. Look, don't take my word for it. There's this little baby company that you might have heard of, Thrasio. They just reached what's called unicorn status. They're the fastest profitable company to reach $1 billion valuation. And we just put out a really good case study with them all around this brand Angry Orange, and how they use PickFu to modify their product packaging, to adjust their product packaging, and grow that brand from $2 million to now more than $20 million in sales. And in fact, in the advanced presentation, we're going to go through a lot more of the methodology of how they actually got there, and how you can apply a very similar framework that we've been really working on to get similar results. So you guys can check out that video. We have a testimonial on our website. But basically, you've got John. He's the VP of Creative and Brand Strategy for Thrasio, and he's saying for about 2 years, they're using PickFu on almost every major creative decision. So again, don't take my word for it. I'm pretty clear that these guys know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, I think that's the wrong code there.
That's okay. We got you.
50,
no, it's all right.
Off. And guys, if you have any questions at all, if you want these slides, it's literally my only job here at PickFu to help you guys out. So feel free to hit me up, Anthony@pickfu.com.
Awesome. Hey, Anthony, that's awesome information. I have a couple questions. As an Amazon seller, what's one thing that you wish that someone like PickFu would come along and I know you're an expert at this point, or you feel like you've been in the game. What's something at PickFu that instantly can provide some sort of clarity or insight for that first time user using you guys?
Yeah, you really just want to start. I think probably the biggest thing is product packaging early on, right? Just because it's something that you really want to get right from the beginning. It's also something that will probably increase your cost only slightly, but it's a very clever way in main images, like in terms of service. You're not really allowed to put text in your main image, right? But you can put text on your product packaging and then stick your product packaging in your main image. Just from a visibility standpoint, if you're scrolling through and now you have that pop of color in your product packaging, you can really increase your CTR. Every time that your main image is shown, that's going to be what's showing up in your PPC ads. And so really having a good main image. So between product packaging and main image, I think is probably the biggest application to get quick results.
Right. Because obviously if you go down the wrong road, you can kind of somewhat implement, those decisions early on. Like you said, if you have quantities that are available in certain packs, whether it's 100 units or 25, those are huge implications to your sourcing, to your, just in listing in general. Like all this stuff kind of builds on each other. So you can either leave money on the table or obviously spend more money than what you should have in the first place. That's an awesome answer. I know you guys kind of pride yourselves on working outside just e-commerce in general. What's other industries that would be applicable to your company helping out, digital entrepreneurs in general?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, how PickFu started is the founders of the company, Justin and John, they were actually working on another website completely unrelated to e-commerce around restaurant menus. And, they're 2 engineers and they were consistently butting heads on, hey, what should we do? And that's how PickFu started. And e-commerce actually came much later down the road. So it started out as a tool really for web development. And then we got into publishing. So as you can imagine, a book is a really great example, because as much as like the contents of the book matter, if your cover's not good, if your title's not good, like no one's going to even buy it. So publishing is a really big one. And then a big vertical that we've been seeing a lot of growth in recently is with game development and mobile game development, just because, as you can imagine, like if anyone's played video games, what makes a game feel the most realistic is all of the details. And so even just testing, people think of it like, oh, well, you can test the App Store icon, what's going to show up. And that's part of it. But also, what's the character going to look like? What are different lines that are going to be used all throughout, just to create a really realistic and immersive environment.
Absolutely. No, that's great to know. I mean, obviously we touch on mainly e-commerce, but just outside those, applications, it just starts to get your head turning on, book cover or book titles, or, like you said, just those other pieces of information. This might come up quite a bit for your company. Where are these people that are doing, the tests, the answers for these polls that are coming? Is it all domestic? Is it internationally? Is it a little bit of both? What's kind of like that demographic that the company pulls from?
Yeah, so right now, all of the panel, I don't know why my camera's looking like this, but we'll just keep going. So everyone's based in the United States, all the 10,000 people. And so the other thing that I also want to throw out there, because this is kind of interesting as well, is so PickFu's been around for almost 8 years. And one of the things that makes PickFu really unique is that for the whole 8 years, we've been training this machine learning algorithm to kind of look through responses. And when you're actually setting up a poll in PickFu, as a seller, as a business owner, you can actually mark a response as helpful or not helpful. And for 8 years, we've been having people do that. And we're very, very good at, when a response comes through, it's not helpful. Those people are actually removed from the panel. And then people that do give helpful responses, they're actually incentivized and given kind of a little bit of a bonus. So they're all real people. People ask that as well. Like, yes, they get paid. They're not just doing this because they like it. Right. But they're also incentivized to be fast and to answer the responses quickly, to be thoughtful. And the people, when we interview people from the panel, they really like it, because they're getting to take part and to see new and exciting ideas, and they're helping out business owners.
Right. So what's one thing that you think that the company has driven in terms of innovation, whether it's, just how people receive data? And I guess that's part one. And then part two, what's PickFu kind of working on to make sure that they're always top of the game and kind of the leader in this industry? Because I don't believe there's many companies out there like you guys, which is why I think it's so important for people to be aware of your company. So what's kind of that next step for PickFu that they've either seen as past responses, like you said, like a not helpful button? What's that continuing innovation that you guys are working on? Yeah,
absolutely. The biggest thing that that really makes PickFu unique, and I think the thing that we're most prideful on, is that our UI is really good, and it's set up to interpret results very quickly and very easily. So there might be other platforms out there that you can get similar types of information from people, but the platform itself lends itself to, you literally just upload 2 images, you type in the question, and then 30 minutes later, it's like, bam, it's there, it's done. You can read the responses. We've just added in recent features, which allows you to pin certain responses. And then when you share your URL, you can share that with your creative team, with your designers. In terms of future improvements that we're making on the product, the biggest feedback that we've got, which we just hired on another individual to help with our development side, is really trying to, as closely as possible, simulate a real e-commerce environment, particularly Amazon. And so you're going to see features that are coming out soon that are pretty cool, because we've been working on them for a few months, that actually looks almost identical to the Amazon platform. So now, rather than having to go into Photoshop and to say, hey, here's what the page of search results goes through, you can actually put in an ASIN and it's going to populate, and you can pull in an image and you can set the reviews and set the price. So that way you're asking people now, not which image do you prefer, but which would you be more likely to click on? And it looks like, for the people that are voting, it looks like very much like the Amazon platform, almost identical.
That's awesome. That's very cool. So what's kind of that? Is it just mainly Amazon that you guys are focused on, or is there other e-commerce platforms that you would think that would make sense for you guys?
Yeah, well, the cool thing about Amazon, and this is, this is coming from a background of someone who used to work at Amazon. I worked there for about a year. Amazon, compared to any other e-commerce platform, Amazon's the most strict, without a doubt, in terms of service, in terms of like the level of rigor and the level of competition, versus if you go out on Shopify, you can kind of do whatever you want, right? Even on some of the other selling platforms like Walmart.com, it's much more open. And so we tailor most of our content and the platform really around Amazon. And that's with the expectation that, number one, Amazon still, even though there are other players that are coming into the market, Amazon's still dominant. There's no question about that, at least for the time being. But if you can operate within the strict environment of Amazon's TOS, you can apply any of the things I'm talking about. In fact, you can apply them much more widely to something like, Google Shopping or Walmart.com, just because the TOS is like 2 lines and you can, they don't really care so much, versus Amazon. It's like, you really gotta,
it's a book.
For a second, you're gone.
It's a very boring, but very tedious book to read through and make sure any updates that are made, you have to look through it. So I completely understand. So I guess before we wrap up, Anthony, I know we're kind of butting up on time. My final question, I guess, would be from you. What's kind of the weirdest poll that you've seen come through, or the most intriguing or thought-provoking poll that you guys have put out there to the marketplace?
The ones that always surprise me the most are, for me personally, are when I see multiple good options that I can't even tell a difference between. So really, we see this a lot with with really good creative teams, because we're getting bigger and bigger companies that are coming on. And, I can't really name drop too many, but like big national brands. Like, I've been going down the road and seen billboards that have been tested on PickFu, and parts of campaigns that have been tested on PickFu. And so that's always what's really cool, because you look at these small, minute changes and you're just like, I would have never, ever even thought about that. And I've been doing this creative work for a couple of years and ran an agency for a couple of years. In terms of the most unique stuff, I mean, we do some fun stuff on our blog, we do things around holidays. So for Mother's Day, we're like, what's the weirdest gift you've ever gotten for Mother's Day? And, just different things like that, some of the more lifestyle, but that's usually our internal team. We ask people when COVID, when COVID started, what were you doing to, what are you doing to protect yourself, and to actually see how that progression changed, and, some political things in there as well. But nothing really sticks to mind as anything that's super weird. I'm just waiting until someone's like, oh, hey, I've got this name for my kid. What should it be? That's what I'm waiting for.
Hey, that will come sooner than you think. Yeah, obviously with naming after characters and whatnot, I'm sure that will pop in after this. But yeah, that's super intriguing. I think we can obviously go into more greater detail, but this is a great high level look at what PickFu does and kind of the broad spectrum that you guys offer, specifically for e-commerce, but obviously across many different industries, like obviously political, different industries like that, which is super unique and thought-provoking. So where can people learn more information? One more time before we kind of wrap up here. Where can they get in contact with you or follow PickFu? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll say is that, if anyone wants to reach out, we've got myself, so Anthony at PickFu.com. We also just hired on a brand new, well, not brand new, but within the past couple of months, a customer success specialist. That's all we do is just get on the phone. We look at your listings and we can answer questions. So you can feel free to hit us up. You can book an appointment. The other thing is, I really do want to emphasize those bundles. It's a limited time offer. It's only going to run until the end of October, but it's pretty much the best deal that we've ever put out. And so as you can see here, most people who are using PickFu, they're not just using it once, they're using it about, like we said, 4 to 7 times. So the bundles are a pretty sweet deal, especially as we're getting into Q4. You're going to see, this Q4 is going to be insane. Everyone knows that. You're going to see volume that's just higher than it's ever been ever. And so before that volume picks up, maybe think about testing some of your creative assets, because it can make a big difference. And if it is possible, I'd love to come back on for a more advanced rundown. We'll really run you through that methodology, like I was talking about in that Thrasio case study. How can people actually, what's the methodology for actually using PickFu to get from a pretty good original concept, but to get to something that's just whoa, that's really good.
Exactly. I think that this is almost like you need to have a multiple part series just to walk through all the different possibilities of what you guys can do as a company. Well, I'm going to say, yeah, you're more than welcome to come back anytime. But yeah, we'll make sure that we kind of take customer questions and our audience questions and kind of like walk through and see what's more thought-provoking. Because I'm assuming, obviously, with Q4 and with the whole pandemic going on, a lot of people are starting to think of different ways how to market and stand out. So we'd love to have you guys talk through that as well. So, well, thank you, Anthony, again, for coming on and just kind of giving a little insight about the company itself, PickFu, and a little bit about your background. I'm curious. We can dive in. You threw out a lot of different. Hey, I ran this, or I was part of Amazon for about a year that we didn't get to dive into, but I would love to kind of pick your brain more and go from there. But I'm Ryan Cramer with PingPong, and thank you, Anthony Cofrancesco from PickFu joining me here on Crossover Commerce. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thanks.